Welcome to this channel about anything where once again I show you a unique retro device that you probably never heard of. 2 times before I showed you the first HiFi with a graphical user interface. Both brands made that claim, and I believed them, but they were wrong. So for the 3rd time, but now really, this is the first HiFi with a graphical user interface. Probably. Introduced in 1992, so 1 year earlier than that Schneider system. And as you can see, it's interesting in many other ways as well. This is the Revox Evolution. Up until this point, Revox followed a fairly common design language, even though Revox was operating at the top segment of consumer hi-fi. They never made anything like the Evolution before or after. No one ever made anything like this. To get a better sense of the size of this thing, here's a comparison with a human.
Hello.
It received an ISA Design Award in '93. I agree with that award. In that time, televisions still looked like this.
1990 ein Schicksalsjahr für Revox. Nach dem Abgang des Firmengründers überstürzen sich unter neuen Besitzern die Schreckensmeldungen. Rezession, technologischer Rückstand, Schrumpfkur, Fabrikschließungen, Entlassungen. Ein Furioso.
This is the founder of Revox, Willy Studer, in a documentary from 1994 about the aftermath of selling the company in an attempt to save it. The fate of almost all West European hi-fi brands at the time. From this, the Evolution emerged. 2 entrepreneurs bought the remains of Revox, and today they still operate at the top segment. The Evolution was sold until the year 2000, maybe because they had stock left, although newer versions don't have the screws on the screen. So this must be one of the early units. It was also available in black. But the white version makes it stand out even more from all the black plastic boxes of the time. And this is not just plastic. It's Quareal, then new material patented by Revox, made of acryl with quartz sand. The material is still used today for sanitary applications such as bathtubs, so certainly durable. 33 years later, it's still perfectly white. But I found the matte finish on this quite difficult to clean. I have quite the collection of hi-fi consisting of components, and they're all made in a way that you can stack them on top of each other. The Evolution rotates every component 90 degrees and stacks them side by side. Sorry. Unfortunately, assembling and deassembling is not that easy. It feels like you're assembling furniture. You better not lose any of these screws or you're screwed. Sorry. Strangely, those screws are not mentioned in the assembly manual. Anyway, the display is the easiest part. I also found a piece of black plastic, which is extremely important. It's what the right side of the device rests on, giving the illusion that it defies gravity. For this, they made a very strong construction. And that's what all the screws are for. Here you're looking at my first time assembly. And you should not let go like I do here. because first a long screw has to go in, then a short one, and then it's secured. And the same procedure below. You don't need to attach any cables because it's inside those connectors. However, assembly isn't exactly easy. But my guess is that I'm doing this all wrong. I also had a problem with the long screws not fitting in the hole, because the inside parts weren't aligned properly. It doesn't only assemble like furniture, it is furniture, designed to be floor standing.
Oh shit.
The weight of this thing does not defy gravity. But I later discovered it's so solid that you can use those metal bars to carry it. Like I will now demonstrate. Right. It is a truly three-dimensional design. Designed to look nice even from the back. Designed for big houses with plenty of space to just plop it in an unused part of the living room. Like I've simulated here, it's actually very in the way. Thanks to this grill, all connections are nicely hidden away. But it only really needs power and speaker connections. And if back then you had the money to buy this, why not spend a little extra and hide the cables under the floor? And perhaps place an extra display on the wall, because why not? Embossed on the sides is a music score. Musicians may recognize it, but I believe it goes something like this. You could order it with large speakers with a surprisingly normal design, or small satellite speakers with a subwoofer that you can place the Evolution on, which in my opinion destroys the design. You could even order a glass stand to place it on. But I think it looks best on its own. Each component has an indicator light, which isn't just an LED, but a nice icon. The smallest component is the tuner, then the CD, and then the cassette. The order of the CD and cassette doesn't matter, and apparently it also works with only the tuner. This is the remote. It's also unlike any other, and also seems to defy gravity. Probably the only remote where the buttons are at a corner instead of a face. The way it seems to defy gravity is this little stand. The housing is of metal, so you'd think this is also very robust. But when it fell off the system on the wooden floor, like this, it stopped working. And since I can only figure out how to open the battery compartment, I found another interesting Revox remote. With a graphical user interface. It's the most complex remote I've ever encountered.
Why do I get TV if I click audio? How the hell do I go out of this menu?
You can see this one is from the early 2000s because it has blue LEDs.
I'm stuck.
I could not get it working on the Evolution. Speaking of graphical user interfaces, this is the graphical user interface. Oh. Well, Like mentioned in previous videos, old things break and I got it so you don't have to. However, you can still get this serviced at Revox. Actually, the seller bought special boxes from Revox to send it to me. But thankfully, servicing wasn't necessary. When I cut the power using this nice button on the back, it worked again, just like a computer. Unlike that remote, this interface is very self-explanatory. This is the radio. As you can see, you can give stations your own name. It does have radio text. Here are some stations of the previous owner. By pressing the setup button, you get more options, like changing the name. But let's move to the CD player. It begins playing in less than 4 seconds. You open and close it also using the interface. It's a fast and swift mechanism. So fast, in fact, that the CD wiggles a little bit. Sorry. Back to the interface. For the CD, it's also very self-explanatory. 2 menus where you can do the usual things, so let's go to the cassette. The level meters, for some reason, are always at the maximum. So perhaps this is a good moment to, for the first time, check if this thing actually makes any sound. Yeah, the cassette you have to close by hand. So, for this first audio test, I'll be using the headphones output. Yeah, that wasn't very entertaining because it just worked. Now the amplifier button, where we can change treble, bass and balance, so no equalizer, and turn speakers A and B on or off, with no indication whether it's on or off. Also, the volume knob is metal. And it still works perfectly, but the system has a small delay. If you press Setup now, you can change the brightness of the display. And there's one more knob behind the display to change the contrast of the LCD. And that's about it. According to the manual, you can tilt the display before tightening it. But I was afraid to do that because everything looks solid, also the bass. But as one of the last things I film, I take the risk. And indeed, it's possible. A remarkable construction, but aesthetically, this is nicer, of course. Alright, I still haven't connected it to speakers, but let's assume it sounds the way it looks. Nice. Just like my new EP, Olution. Special thanks to my patient patrons and those who buy my music. Without you, this video wouldn't exist. And thanks everybody for watching. And I hope to see you soon, not meant sarcastically.
Like I will now. Hello, I'm Trey. Hi, I'm Trey. Hi, I'm Trey. I am sure.
Like I will now demonstrate.